has seen a surge in events and incidents relating to attacks on healthcare professionals like doctors, nurses, paramedics, ambulance drivers, etc. Once unheard of, these incidents unfortunately seem to have become the norm of the day today.
Yeah. So adding to this, this month, even in Chennai, if you had noticed, a doctor has been stabbed by a patient's son due to his dissatisfaction over his mother's cancer treatment. I mean, the knife attack carried out in broad daylight in the hospital premises has sparked a serious safety concerns for all the healthcare professionals. So this incident is also close on heels of that unfortunate rape and murder of that young doctor inside the Kolkata hospital as well.
Right. Subathra, I remember reading about these incidents vividly during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
Particularly in the second wave of the pandemic, which claimed millions of lives. There were so many frustrated family members of COVID patients who were so frustrated either because they were not given access to treatment or they didn't have facilities, oxygen cylinders, or were unhappy with the way their kith and kin was treated, most of them resulting in death. So frustrated, they attacked doctors, nurses, even paramedics and drivers, etc. It was sad even back then. It's like it's sad today because doctors and the medical fraternity were the primary caregivers during the pandemic. They were out there, right? While we were also grappling with what hit us, so were they. They were the primary caregivers, but yet they were at the receiving end.
Yeah, not just in COVID, Sandhya, but the violence still continues even to date, right? So in 2023, if you see, even a young lady doctor was fatally stabbed to death in Kerala hospital, where an offender was brought to the hospital for a medical examination, right? So it was a freaky act of violence where he used the scissors, which was lying there in the instrument table, and randomly stabbed that helpless young doctor to death. So, an expert medical team has examined him and also diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder, which is believed to have stemmed out of substance and alcohol abuse.
The statistics are gravely concerning. The Indian Medical Association, or the IMA as it's called, in its study found that more than 80% of doctors have experienced violence of some sort in the course of their work and career. It's the violence could be verbal, physical, aggressive behavior, intimidatory tactics, etc. Verbal abuse and aggressive behavior has been the most prevalent form of violence against healthcare professionals. About 20 to 25% say they have experienced physical violence, where they have been attacked and injured grievously. And in some cases, like the case you were just mentioning about the doctor who died in Kerala, unfortunately, have also met with death. And I mean, the study further goes on to say that most of these offenses are related to critical care patients who are either in the ICU or are, critical. And the timing, it's mostly such attacks are carried out during broad daylight. I don't know if it is to send out a message to everybody loud and clear. But also, unfortunately, most of these have been in public health facilities. There have been stray incidents of private hospitals being attacked, but most of it is in public health facilities.
So, coming to the law and its effectiveness, in 2019, the Ministry of Health introduced a draft called as the Healthcare Services, Personnel and Clinical Establishments, Prohibition of Violence and Damage to Property Bill. Right? Now, this bill contains some important provisions to safeguard the healthcare professionals, where it was also proposed to make violence as a non-bailable offense with heavy penalties and imprisonment. But the bill was rejected primarily on the ground that health is primarily a state subject according to the Indian Constitution, meaning that only the states are primarily responsible for providing any kind of healthcare services. So it was also felt that at the central level, the former IPC, now called as the BNS Act 2023, contains provisions for violence which is against the persons, and it also which include the medical fraternity as well. They have become inclusive as well.
Right.
So, Sandhya, besides the 2019 bill, in 2020, especially during the COVID pandemic, an ordinance was passed amending the Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897. Here, they included the definition of healthcare professional, and also they introduced preventive measures which is against violence which is inflicted on any kind of healthcare workers, and also any damage to property and subject offenders with penalties and fines, right?
Oh.
So, but post the pandemic, you see, the Epidemic Act has been taking a back seat, and so we have the certain amendments.
Yeah. The latest incidents, especially the Kolkata doctor's rape and murder inside a hospital premises, has actually rekindled the need for a central legislation. It was contended that the state laws, though every state has its respective law, the state laws were not uniform because every state has its own provisions. There was also a need for having a graded punishment, like the more severe the offense, the more intense the punishment or the fine. In fact, when the Kolkata rape and murder of the doctor happened, the Supreme Court constituted a national task force, or the NTF, asking for recommendations to be given on how to better the facilities and arrangements for the medical fraternity.
Right.
As recent as a couple of days ago, the NTF came back with its recommendations, one of which saying that there was no need to enact a central law, primarily because every state has its own state laws and the NTF was of the opinion that the respective state laws along with the central BNS Act 2023 are sufficient in itself.
Right. There can be numerous laws, but they would fail to serve the purpose if they are not being effectively implemented. So the conviction rates are one of the lowest, and that is the cause for the concern today. And if you look at the healthcare professionals who have rose to the occasion, especially during the pandemic, are now literally fearing for their life and safety, right? So as citizens, it is upon each one of us to exercise restraint and not to take the law into our own hands.
True. Actually, it's very important to maintain our boundaries, but also there is a need to strengthen the infrastructure for medical facilities, especially public health institutions, like more CCTV surveillance. And, and I think one of the primary things is not to allow unrestricted access to the doctor's private resting areas for outside public. Okay.
Right.
And generally, I think it's important to be mindful of boundaries vis-a-vis when you're dealing with a healthcare professional. So that along with a stronger implementation, as you had mentioned, I think will hopefully ensure in not having to witness such incidents again. We hope our viewers found this informative. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.